Michael Silverman, co-author of Pedro, the new book out on Pedro Martinez. Of course, Pedro Martinez being the other author of this new book, came out last week. Michael Silverman joining Armen and Lavack, 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. Michael, hey, thanks so much for your time today. Tell us about Pedro and how this opportunity came up for you to sit down with Pedro and write this book.
Well, Pedro's a blast. He was amazing to watch cover him his entire Red Sox career. And, he's that type of personality, that type of talent, where I always felt that he would make a great book. In fact, in the middle of his career, in 2000, we were at Camden Yards in Baltimore, and he was just sitting in front of his locker, and I had very little to do myself. And I asked him, I said, hey, I think your story, your career, the way you got off of the island, Dominican Republic, I think it'd make a wonderful book. And he gave me one of those funny little looks. He said, why, do you want to write it, Silver? And I said, well, yeah, of course I would. He said, well, don't worry about it. I'm not getting close to wanting to write a book, but I'll keep you in mind. Don't worry. So, we left it, discussed it off and on for a few years. He still had a career to finish. And, 3 years ago in June, I got the call from his agent saying Pedro was ready to go and that he wanted me to work with him on it. So, I'm really glad he's such a loyal guy.
All right, Michael, I have to put a little disclaimer out there before I ask my next question.
Please do, Lavack. Yes.
I was, given pinstripes in utero. I am the largest Yankee fan.
Painful?
No, I don't recall it. I think it was worth it now, looking back. So what I'm really hoping to hear from you today, Pedro Martinez, giant jerk?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
You've been brainwashed.
No.
I totally understand why a Yankees fan would despise Pedro Martinez. And I also know for sure, had Pedro Martinez been traded to the Yankees, like he wanted to be traded from the Montreal Expos, I think Yankees fans would have been thrilled to have him on their side. He's a polarizing figure, no doubt. He didn't take guff from anybody on the mound, and he was unafraid to pitch inside. As you'll see in the book, I don't know, what is it about Pedro that is it the time he hit Soriano, Derek Jeter, Kareem Garcia?
Yes.
What was it?
The biggest.
Don Zimmer. There's so many.
Yes, that's
there.
the one. That's what, Michael. That's the one. Like I still wake up in a cold sweat, nightmares of beautiful Don Zimmer being grabbed by the head by the evil Pedro Martinez and being thrown to the ground.
Yeah, I'm sure you heard. That is the one and only regret that Pedro has. He really wishes, as we write in the book, that he just turned around and let Zimmer chase him around the Fenway Park and have the whole stadium laughing at the sight of the 72-year-old bald, tubby, raging gerbil chasing Pedro around the ballpark. That's what he wishes he had done. But for the second time that afternoon, after Jorge Posada had already insulted his mother, Zimmer had the same curse on his mouth as he approached Pedro, and he started stumbling just before he tried to hit him, and Pedro just helped him fall a little bit faster. So, it was a terrible incident. Pedro's not proud of how he reacted, but it was a total reaction. It's not, it were premeditated at all. What player ever thinks he's going to be charged by a coach? Never mind, behind the plate of all places at Fenway Park. And the whole scene it's more bizarre. It doesn't get any less bizarre the more you talk about it.
You okay, Lavack? You doing good?
I like
right?
Mike. I like Mike. Mike,
Yeah.
I think I feel like if you had been the mouthpiece of Pedro Martinez my entire life, I would like him a little bit more.
If you have a lunch with him or spend 5 minutes with him, you would be totally charmed by him.
I'm built like Zimmer, though, so I might have to stumble after him.
We'll see. I might put my money on Pedro, but you never know.
Yeah, I'll definitely put my money. I'll tell everybody that
now.
we can all know. Michael Silverman, co-author of Pedro, now in stores. And Mike, if obviously at this point you figured out as your home for New York sports and your home for Yankees baseball, every time my co-host here talks about the Red Sox, there's a different look in his eyes. There is a different sound in his voice. When Pedro talks about the Yankees and that rivalry, does he change? Do you see a change when he recalled those stories in that rivalry of the Yankees?
I think the first half of Pedro's career, he had his way with the Yankees. You'll remember the 17 strikeout game. But kind of like the Red Sox had their way with Mariano Rivera at the end and figured him out, the Yankees got the best of Pedro those last couple of years. he became so sick of the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry. He was always lined up to pitch against the Yankees. It was always against Mike Mussina. By the end, it began to wear at him. I mean, a lot of things got under Pedro's skin, and this was one of them. And I think he was a little bit, I wouldn't say bored by the Yankees rivalry, but all the players, and both on the Yankee side as well, always thought the media made more of it than the players did. I mean, they all recognized that the rivalry was intense, and it was worthwhile based on the wins and losses. Those were two excellent Yankees teams and Red Sox teams in that era, and we all know the rivalry was very fierce back then. And but I think Pedro himself got a little sick of it. And don't forget, except for the fact, 2004, Pedro really wasn't a big factor in that ALCS. But the year before, I would hope Yankees fans have a happy memory of Pedro being left on the mound too long by Grady Little. So there's some good and there's some bad with Pedro and the Yankees.
I've seen some excerpts from the book. I have not had a chance to sit down and read it all yet, and the more I hear you, I actually consider it. So that should be the biggest compliment you've ever received.
I can't imagine you just walking around the hall with
honestly, and I think you'll also enjoy. He really wanted to be traded to the Yankees, like I mentioned. He had no interest in going to the Red Sox from the Expos. He wanted to go to a winning team, and then at the end of 2004, before he signed with the Mets, he went down to Tampa and sat in the same room as George Steinbrenner. And there's a pretty amusing scene there where George asks him if he's going to cut his hair, and Pedro says, "I'll do anything you say, boss." And Derek Jeter pokes his head into the room once George to sign Pedro. So you can try to live the dream of having Pedro in pinstripes if you want by reading the book.
See, if he had skipped, how different would the world be if that trade from Montreal goes to New York? Like that. I'm trying to picture how different the world is with me loving Pedro instead of hating him.
Well, one little juicy tidbit that I don't think has been picked up very much is that in talking to Jim Beattie, the Expos general manager, well, two actually. One of them is that Jim Beattie said that in talking to the Yankees, that Mariano Rivera's name was thrown in as one of the names that perhaps could go to Montreal in return for Pedro. So imagine how history would have changed in that sense. And the second is that Claude Brochu, the owner of the Expos, didn't tell the Yankees that he was never going to trade Pedro to them, but he was never going to trade Pedro to them, but he loved having the Yankees in there, in the works, because whenever you trade, you hold trade talks, you want the Yankees to be in there. So he really wanted Pedro to go to the Red Sox, and he got his way when the Red Sox stepped up. And of course, Dan Duquette would have done anything to get Pedro, and he did for the second time. That's
just the thought of Mariano Rivera being what would be a national now is completely mind-boggling to me.
Or having gone on the farewell tour 2 years ago with the Nationals, exactly. Yeah.
Oh.
That's crazy.
Imagine?
I think that made me hate Pedro even more. I love you because you get me back to where I want to be.
Well, it didn't happen, so it all worked out in the end.
Mike's
got an extra couple of titles while Pedro was around, and Pedro helped the Red Sox win something. It's all good. It's a win-win, don't you think?
Mike Silverman, co-author of Pedro, available now in stores. Mike's on Twitter as well, at Mike Silverman BB. And Mike, you also, of course, write for the Boston Herald, and I know you cover baseball and the Red Sox. But this Tom Brady deflate gate, man, what is the vibe out of Boston? Is Tom Brady just going to get thrown in jail and exiled for life? That's what I'm hearing.
Here's what I hear a lot. Roger Goodell gave Ray Rice 2-game suspension, right, for beating up his wife. And so they want to suspend Tom Brady for, 4, 6, 8 games? I think a lot of people think, well, what's going on? How serious is this? That's believe me, everyone here is pro Tom Brady. Maybe if they were on the other side, but I think they think, hey, he might have misled them, perhaps. We don't know all the facts yet. Doesn't reflect well on the team, but as far as a punishment goes, missing half a season, given all the ills in society and what some of the issues the NFL has on its hands, they're going to really slap Tom Brady that hard? I would have a hard time with that. I don't even follow the NFL that closely, but that doesn't quite jibe well with me.
The Deflategate talk is insane around the country. How crazy is it in Boston?
Oh, it's nuts.
Yeah.
If you aren't listening, turn on the music sometimes just to drown it all out, which you kind of have to do. But obviously, it's a huge story. So they're Super Bowl champions, and this is a a quote-unquote major scandal. So, if maybe the silver lining for the Patriots is that as far as scandals go, it's not the typical scandal that the NFL has these days, which is all about concussions or domestic violence. I guess that's a silver lining if you want to look at it that way.
That is fair. I mean, if I've got to have my star athlete be involved in the press, I'd rather it be for underinflated footballs than anything else we just talked about.
Yeah, and look, I think there's a lot of teams right now who are really grateful that they weren't put under scrutiny, right? I wouldn't be shocked at all to hear that there's a lot of other teams who do this too, a lot of other quarterbacks, and that's what you hear from some of the comments I've read, that some of the other quarterbacks in the league feel like this is really just overblown completely.
Michael Silverman, co-author of Pedro, in stores now. Mike, we might have to have you on more often to just talk some sense into Lavack.
Whoa, that's not possible.
Have him chill out every now and then. It was a nice breath of fresh air today, Mike. We appreciate it, man.
Call anytime, and a shout out to Jill Adams and her family, and of course the whole state assembly in Albany. Everyone there listening.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
All right.
Mike, we appreciate it. Thanks for your time today.
All right. Thanks for calling, guys.